Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you for joining this webinar and attending this session. A little bit about myself. My name is Vaibhav Shah, and I'm a senior solutions architect here with AWS. And I've been here for almost 2.5 years now, so it's been a fun ride. I mostly, in my time here, have worked with customers in the FinServ industry, and I've helped them build solution on AWS Cloud. So document management, yeah, it's challenging. It's a very important and critical element in every industry, especially in FinServ space, where financial documents or documents of financial companies, insurance companies, they're so critical and crucial that they need to be managed and stored and secured properly. Especially like policies, claims, your user data, wealth management documents, and so on. So it's a very critical part of the business. So why should we build the solution by ourselves in first place? So let me explain the answer to the why with the help of a customer example that I worked with in past couple of years, who have actually followed the same path of building a document management solution by themselves. And the customer I'm talking about here is Liberty Mutual. Most of you might have seen a lot of ads or might even have insurance on that company. It's a pretty popular company. It's the sixth largest global property and casualty insurer. And it currently ranks around 78th in the Fortune 100 list of the largest companies in the United States. So Liberty was going through the same challenges that many FinServ industries actually go through as well. Few years back, they decided to move to cloud from on-prem, from legacy mainframe to cloud. And they started this journey. And along the way, they also adopted serverless first approach. So they just did not started lifting and shifting or migrating to the cloud and AWS. They actually started modernizing and started leveraging serverless services. One of the components was with them over here was document management. So maybe a few years back on the top of the shelf, somebody would have picked a solution with a third-party vendor. And it's a popular document management third-party vendor that they ended up picking. But few years down the line, they realized the challenges that it hold. First of all, the integration with the cloud. So the document management was in the on-prem data center, and they had applications and databases and everything moving to cloud. So the vendor itself did not provide an easy and smooth integration with the cloud services. They had challenges with their data access requirements. And by that, I mean querying complex data. They had complex data, policies, claims, everything lying in that storage. And querying those documents based on content metadata was increasingly becoming challenging and complex. Thirdly, it was a stateful nature of that system. And what I mean by stateful is, let's say in the back end, even if they are running it on cloud, they are using load balancers and EC2 instances. And what's happening is, like, let's say if a user logs in and opens a request to upload or query a document, and for some reason, let's say the EC2 instance is behind the load balancer, auto scales, and it shuts down one of the instances and scales up a new one, the request that was being served sort of breaks down. So that was a stateful end-to-end connection request that was going through. So again, this was not giving them a good experience. Data migration was becoming an issue because it was very slow and unreliable. They had an API-driven approach, but they could just upload or migrate one document at a time, which was increasing their time to market. An insurance company actually lives and breathes through their documents, policies, and claims. And if it's taking so much time, 1.5 to 2 years to migrate document by document, it's definitely impacting their business, their time to market, and eventually the whole performance of the whole system and the applications that actually rely on it. So they were facing a lot of challenges, and that's where Liberty Mutual and AWS sort of got together, and we sort of helped them build that solution by themselves. So we were guiding them through the process and making sure they are putting the right components in the right places and making it well architected. So long story short, what they ended up doing was they ended up building over just few months a very highly secure, scalable, and a resilient solution that can literally store billions and billions of documents. And it also brought down their cost by 95%, because when you're using a third-party vendor, you're also paying them licensing fees, and then support fees and storage fees and so on and so forth. But now, since they're managing all that by themselves, the cost just slashed down by 95%. So we ended up collaborating with them and ended up writing a blog with them as well, which is reference here, which you can, for later after this session, you can go on and read about it. And my goal in this session is to highlight to the advantages of what Liberty Mutual took out of building the solution on AWS, and then also talking to several customers across the board. I realized that a lot of customers are facing the same issue. So what I ended up doing is that I made my own flavor of this document management solution with mostly serverless services, which brings down the cost and it's also very secure. So I'll end up talking about that as well. So few advantages of that is cost savings. So first of all, no more licensing fee. You have to throw that out of the window. You can scale the infrastructure into multiple regions in minutes, because everything, the solution built by Liberty and the one I'm going to show you, was both infrastructure as code. So using CloudFormation, SAM templates, or CDK, whatever infrastructure as code you are comfortable with, you can use that and sort of deploy it in multiple regions and scale easily. It's a very scalable and resilient solution as well, also very flexible. And we were talking about IDP in last session, have built a solution in a way where you can pull and insert your own components without breaking the whole system. So it's sort of decoupled. So, if you end up in future want to do not just document management, but also some kind of intelligent document processing and use services like Textract and Comprehend, maybe extract information like license or the user or the policy holder. If you want to nitpick some certain data from the documents, you can use AI ML services offered by AWS, and then you can also plug into the solution, which will be very easier to do. So wanted to make the solution more flexible and open-ended as well, because we understand that every customer has a different need. So a few considerations that I had in mind while doing it is that it should be API-based, API-driven. That means the CRUD operations, when I say CRUD, I mean create, read, update, and delete. All those operations should have its own API, so it should be API-driven. There should be lifecycle management as well for all those documents. And the services used here on AWS by default enables you to provide any kind of lifecycle management you need. So if you need a document, it's more than 1 year old, you want to transition into a cold storage or infrequent access, because you don't want to pay much for that document and you might not even need it. After 5 years, let's say you want to just archive it. So maybe you archive it in, let's say, a Glacier, Amazon S3 Glacier gives you very cheap options of storing it, the old documents, and archiving it for future use if needed, and maybe also deleting it. So all those lifecycle management can be also enabled here. Search is a very crucial part. You just don't want to store documents, you also want to search through them and sort of open it. So you want to search based on content, right? Like you might not remember what's in the document, just want to search based on content that might be present in a document. Think about it as Google search, right? And also metadata. So every document can or cannot have a attached to it. And again, it depends on the customer, how they want to use it. By metadata, I mean, let's say you have a policy, right? You have a policy, a given policy, and you want the name of the file, the name of the policy on it, a description about the policy, or the author, or the policy holder name, and so on. So all those are little metadata that might be attached to the document. So you can even search based on metadata or maybe a content that is available within the document itself. So I wanted to make the search more quick and more easy. And of course, it's financial services we are talking about. So it needs to be secure. It needs to be cost effective as well, and needs to be scalable. So all those factors were considered in mind. And also I talked about query, pattern, and managed services. So in this solution I'm going to present, I have used serverless services a lot. Like it's a serverless heavy solution, which itself means it's cost effective. It scales by itself. You only pay for what you use. So if you're just using, some customers might use a few documents per day, so you just pay for that. Some might use hundreds and thousands of documents per day, upload or search and all that. So they pay accordingly as well. So it depends on your usage. So little overview of the solution. So this is how the architecture looks like. You can see it's completely serverless, it's highly available, it's cost effective. The core of the document storage here is Amazon S3, because this is where all your documents will sort of carry out. And we have Amazon API Gateway, which acts as a front end acts as an API where you can do your CRUD operations. Cognito as an authentication mechanism for it. And then we have OpenSearch serverless flavor, which was just released last year in reInvent, where you don't have to manage the underlying server. You just have to index the documents and store it in OpenSearch, and it makes the documents easily searchable. So if I walk you through this architecture, this is how it will look like. Let's say this solution is deployed, and you will get some APIs as an output, which will be for uploading, updating, deleting, and so on. So as a user, you can control, as an administrator, you can control what users you want to include, who can perform certain operations. You don't want to give a delete API operation to all the users. You just might want to hold it for the administrator group. So you can fine-grain control the access of the APIs over here. So let's say if you want to upload a document and you have the right access, you call an API, it's basically authenticating yourself against Cognito using username and password. It will return you a token. You can use that token to call, let's say, upload a document, right? So you have a document, you have some metadata along with it. You upload the document and call this API. API will first authenticate with Cognito to see if you have the right token and the right access, if you are the right user who can do this operation. If yes, it goes to Lambda for actually uploading and processing that document. If no, it will right away block you from doing any kind of operation. So the front end itself is securing your resources, whatever you're uploading and using in the backend. Let's say you're authorized user, Lambda will take the document, it will process it, it will see the metadata, and will just sort of push it to S3 bucket, in the right bucket, in the right subfolders, if you might have it. And along with the metadata that's stored in the document. Once the document is stored in S3, it will then trigger an event bridge, which will say, okay, a new document has been uploaded. So it will take that event, another Lambda will kick it off and sort of use that as an event to store that document and metadata in OpenSearch. So this is where, I'm isolating the front end, the middle part of it, where the storage is with the searchable part. So the issue that was happening with Liberty or many customers over here, that most of the services are very tightly coupled, and it leaves a very little room for failure. So if something is not working in the back end, basically everything fails at the front end as well. It requires a response until the document is stored. This is not, it's not true in this case. Even the front end is API driven, the back end is basically event driven architecture. So I've used mixture of flavors of both over here. Last but not the least, there'll be a different set of users, or maybe same set of users, who can log into OpenSearch and sort of search those documents. Now, you don't want any user to go through your documents and search it and so on. So user management is done at the OpenSearch level as well. So now you can isolate your users and groups who can actually upload it, update it, and delete it from the users who can actually search it. And you might not want all the users to search or go through all the documents. Maybe some people need to have this access for claims. A group of policies needs to just have access to policies. Administrator needs to look at everything. So you can fine grain those access at the searching level as well. And feel free to stop if there are any questions. So as solutions architect, we always recommend our customers to create a well-architected solution on cloud. And while doing so, I kept the same things in mind. So I'm not covering all the pillars of well-architected here, but I'm covering the key components that are important for document management, especially in FinServ industries. First is security. We consider this as job zero here in Amazon, and it's one of the very important pillars as part of a well-architected framework. So every API, as I mentioned, is secured. It cannot be invoked without authentication by any user, and only with the right validation token it can be called. The same thing with OpenSearch. It provides the same option as well of user management. And one more thing, we have to secure the documents as well. So even at the S3 bucket level, you can have bucket policies and access policies that only allows that given API to upload it. So no one can, sort of skip that step and somehow try to upload a document into that bucket without authentication at the front end. So you can also fine-grain manage that using bucket policies and access policies and so on. So you know that your documents are safe. The second pillar I wanted to cover is performance efficiency, because if it's a document storage, you need to be fast. You need to be query those documents fast as well. So since this is serverless, it's easy to you don't have to manage the servers. You don't have to do any guesswork. It's easy to scale as well. As said before, I have used both API and event-driven strategy over here. And Lambda's S3 API all by itself scales as per the usage. So, customers don't need to worry about managing that and managing the performance of the whole solution. Even OpenSearch flavor has been used in the serverless way, so that all the compute underlying that is just being managed by AWS itself. So you don't have to play around with how many servers you would need, how much data that might be stored. Everything will be managed and be scaled up automatically. The solution is highly reliable. The reason I say that Amazon S3 itself provides 4 nines of availability and 4 nines of durability. So it's a pretty solid service to show your critical documents at. And also, if you want to, as part of your reliability pillar or as part of your resiliency strategy, S3 has features like cross-region replication. Now you can use cross-region replication to automatically replicate your bucket or the objects within the bucket to a bucket in a different region for any kind of compliance requirements that you might have with the auditors. So you can just enable that, and now you have documents sort of in a different region as well. And so in case something happens to the primary region, you can always recover. AWS Backup also provides a solid backup strategy for Amazon S3. So you can use AWS Backup for, let's say, if you want to take frequent backups of the documents that have been stored, that's an hourly backup, 12 hours, 24 hours. All that is configurable using AWS Backup as well. So these are knobs and features that you can turn on and turn off as and when different customers require it. And of course, cost optimization. There's no licensing fee. It's pay-as-you-go models. Everything is serverless. It definitely saves you money. You only pay for execution time. So if your Lambda function is executed only once or maybe 10 times in a day for a few seconds, you only pay for that. You don't pay for the code lying there for an entire day or entire month. So you only pay for those invocations, execution times. S3 provides a pretty cheap storage option to our customers, and also provides document lifecycle management. So if you want to transition this document to archive and then deletion eventually, S3 provides that feature at no cost, which in turn will bring the storage cost down. And yeah, no licensing. So it's your solution, completely infrastructure as code, so you can deploy it in one account, multiple accounts, multiple regions as per your choice, and there's no licensing fee attached to it. So that being said, thank you so much for the time. I have my email over here, so feel free to get in touch with me if this solution sort of interests you. And if you would like to see this architecture in action, 20-25 minutes was not enough for me to show the demo, but for the people who are here who are interested in knowing more about building your own document management solution, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to answer any further questions, maybe show you the demo and show this architecture in action as well. With that, thank you so much.